Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at a very groovy fighter indeed. It's Groove On Fight for the Sega Saturn. This game, which is part of the Power Instinct series as it's known in North America, was developed and published by Atlus in Japan only in 1997. It goes for a somewhat darker and more serious tone than previous games in the series, which have a very wacky feel to them, but it does retain a bit of humor. It features a roster of 11 playable characters to start with, and a few more to be unlocked that weren't playable in the arcade version. Also, this is one of the few Saturn games and 2D fighting games in general that supports up to 4 simultaneous players. It's a great example of what Atlus, who people typically think of as an exclusively RPG developer, can do when they're given different genres to play around with. So, with this being a 4-player game, it goes without saying that it's a tag fighter, but instead of your partner waiting somewhere off screen, they remain in the background until you tag them in, and they can also jump into the foreground at any time to perform an assist attack. Also, whenever a character is not in play, they slowly recover their health, so frequent tagging is definitely encouraged. As far as the overall gameplay goes, Groove On Fight is a fairly fast-paced fighter with an emphasis on performing combos. Every character has a set of pretty standard special moves, quarter circles and so forth, but the characters themselves are very different from one another. There are some pretty traditional characters here with fireballs and Shoreviewken style moves, but there are also some that are very unorthodox, kind of reminiscent of rosters in later fighting games like Guilty Gear, for example. I don't think Groove On Fight controls quite as smoothly as Guilty Gear, but it's plain to see that that's the kind of direction they were going in. It's definitely a big departure from the first 2 games in the series. As per usual, there are super combo gauges located at the bottom of the screen, and each match begins with both sides having one super combo available right away. The gauge obviously fills up as you land attacks, but you're also given a freebie if one of your characters is knocked out, and both characters share the same gauge. The super combos themselves are really cool looking and do a lot of damage. They're also really easy to perform, and it's the same button combination for every character. So the trick is using the move with the appropriate timing, which does vary from one character to another. Like I said, they're all pretty diverse as far as their attack styles go. All things considered, the gameplay in Groove On Fight is really good. It's fast-paced, it controls fairly smooth, and it's a lot of fun. I still haven't been able to try out the 4-player mode yet, but I have to imagine it's awesome. I really like the presentation in Groove On Fight, though I will admit that the graphics aren't exactly the sharpest, and the animation on the characters can be pretty stiff looking at times, but the visual style itself I think is really cool. The character designs aren't exactly what I would call typical, and I like that. There are only so many times you can see another bunch of characters in karate gis and wrestling gear. Also, the stages look really cool too, but again, they lack a little something in sharpness and detail. This being a 97 release, I can't help but think of Street Fighter Alpha 2, for example, which was loaded with color and detail with plenty of animation in the backgrounds. Not nearly as much detail and color here, but the designs themselves look great, if a bit weird at times, but again, sometimes weird is good. Also, you do have the option of using a RAM expansion card to give the graphics a little bit of a boost. The sound design, like the characters and stages, is kind of all over the place. Every stage features a different style of music to match the setting, and you get everything from traditional Japanese music to techno and heavy metal. It all sounds pretty good, but I think this game could have benefited from more music from the techno and metal genres. A nice little bonus is a gallery mode where you can take a look at some character sketches and production art, which is always nice to see, especially in a game with such unique designs. On the whole, while I think it's obvious that Groove On Fight isn't exactly an A-list game, it does feature some cool visuals and music, and most importantly, great gameplay. So it's pretty obvious that I like this game, and I definitely recommend it to 2D fighting fans that are looking for something new and maybe a little different. If you intend to buy it though, I'd recommend moving quickly. This one's been going up in price recently, potentially up to $60 for the game itself and $100 for the version that comes with the RAM cart. That's pretty steep, but if you're like me and you think a good 2D fighting game is priceless, then you'll want to look into this one. It's Groove On Fight, and it's
groovy.